Prelude to Chapter 4. Mary's screams echoed throughout the cave-like stable. Sweat beat down her brow as her whole body tensed in pain. Joseph was beside Mary, unwavering in his devotion to her. Her cries continued as the sun finally set over the western hills. Then, as the stars began to sprinkle across the sky like fireflies, Mary's wails were replaced with the whimpering of a newborn baby. In a dusty stable surrounded by a host of farm animals, the promised child of God was born. Mary and Joseph cried as the newborn babe breathed in his first breaths on earth. There were no priests to sound trumpets or incense burned at his feet, just two doting parents, a few donkeys and sheep, and silence. It was a truly humble birth for such a long-awaited king. Yet this was the prophecy of Isaiah long before, that a virgin would conceive and give birth to a son in the city of Bethlehem, and call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. God himself, Creator and the Word of life, came down to dwell among mankind. Mary leaned over and kissed his nose. The Spirit of God was present and near. They could not begin to imagine what this child would grow up to do. For now, they held him, kissed him, listened to his cries, and attended to his every need. For now, they were doting parents humbly thanking God for the burden and blessing of caring for a king.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Pray.com's Heroes in the Bible, Ruth. I'm your host, Savannah Chrisley, and I'm so glad you've stuck with me through this journey. Subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, and follow the podcast for more amazing stories like these. If you've been here from the beginning, you've seen it all: heartbreak, loyalty, faith, and bold moves. And now we are here at Ruth chapter 4, the grand finale. If you're new here, don't worry, I've got you covered. We've been following the story of Ruth, a woman who's shown us what it looks like to stay faithful even when life's falling apart. In chapter 1, we see Ruth's loyalty to Naomi when she could have just walked away. In chapter 2, we saw Ruth's hard work and God's provision through Boaz. And chapter 3 was all about bold moves, Ruth's risky step of faith to ask Boaz to be her kinsman redeemer. But now, this is it. This is the chapter where it all comes together. Redemption, restoration, legacy. We began today's episode with a prelude, a different story that foreshadows today's themes. We met another woman of courage, Mary. Ruth and Mary's lives are connected in a profound way. We'll unpack that after today's story. Today, we're going to see Boaz step up in a major way. We'll see Ruth's story go from brokenness to blessing, and we'll get a glimpse of God's bigger plan, a plan that's bigger than Ruth, bigger than Boaz, and yes, bigger than us too.
The morning was alive with the song of birds and the whisper of a gentle breeze. Yet Boaz was far from tranquil. Love, duty, loyalty, and affection, all of these churned within him, pulling him in different directions. It was hard to say which had first compelled him to heed Ruth's request. Perhaps it was all of them. What was certain was the grip her presence had upon him. Her smile, radiant even in the flicker of torchlight, haunted him. Her voice, gentle and resolute, echoed in his thoughts. She was a marvel of steadfast devotion and quiet strength. Yet to marry her, that was no simple matter. There was another man, a closer kinsman whose claim by law came before his own. Boaz was a man of integrity, and he would not abandon his honor now, no matter how much he wanted to. He stood at the base of the path leading to the other Redeemer's estate, the gravel crunching beneath his sandals. The road stretched before him, winding and still. The echoes of the previous night, Ruth's whispered words, her presence like a lantern in his darkened heart, still clung to him like a dream half remembered.
You are a kinsman redeemer, Boaz. Your wings are able to uplift and raise up the broken and forgotten. Please, spread your wings over me as a redeemer.
He steadied himself, taking slow, deliberate breaths as he approached the entrance. Most important meetings happened at the gate. Boaz lowered himself onto a stone near it and fixed his gaze on the horizon. The rising sun cast its golden light over the fields, turning them into a sea of shimmering gold. The other kinsmen approached with a few grunts. The man was older, his beard streaked with gray, and his face weathered from years spent beneath the unforgiving sun. His movements were brusque and his tone sharp as he dismissed Boaz's polite bow.
Ah, Boaz. To what do I owe this visit?
The Lord be with you, brother.
The two men sat side by side, their eyes on the field stretching before them. It was a fitting backdrop for the conversation at hand.
As you know, Naomi, wife of Elimelech, has returned to Bethlehem. Being a widow, she's no longer able to afford her property. It is up to a kinsman redeemer to buy it and keep it in the family. Is this something you would desire to purchase? It is your right before it is mine.
The home at the corner of the city? I could buy it from her. The ground hasn't been tilled in years, but that shouldn't be a problem for my oxen. I can certainly buy it from her so she may have some wealth to live on for the rest of her days, however long that may be.
It's within your right. Yet there is another aspect of this redemption, though. Whoever buys the home will also redeem her daughter-in-law, Ruth, the widow of Mahlon. She traveled with her to Bethlehem.
As the words left his lips, Boaz felt the weight of his own longing. Offering Ruth to another man stung more than he expected, but it also crystallized his resolve. He wanted her, not merely as a duty, but as a joy. He waited, the tension mounting like a drawn bowstring. The kinsman sighed heavily, shaking his head.
Ah, blast it, I can't do that, Boaz. I have a bride of my own, and she's trouble enough for me, plus it would muddy up the inheritance laid up for my children. Messy, I won't have that headache.
He turned to Boaz and noticed the look of relief on his face. A sly smile crept across his face.
I had to do what is honorable.
You and your honor. I do what's right in my own eyes. Meanwhile, I prefer to be practical, thank you. I do what makes sense, and frankly, this doesn't. Here, give me your sandal and let's be done with it.
The two exchanged sandals, a gesture of tradition binding the transaction. They embraced briefly, the older man slapping Boaz's back with rough camaraderie.
Thank you.
Don't thank me yet. You still need the elders to approve of this mess. Many of them wanted you to marry their daughters. I expect it will be a disappointment.
Boaz rose, his stride firmer, his heart lighter. There was a fire within him now, the unmistakable assurance of God's hand upon his life. The Spirit of the Lord surged within him, filling him with the courage of a redeemer. As he made his way toward Ruth, he thought of the path ahead, not just the physical road, but the life they would build together. The Lord was moving, and Boaz was marching in step with his divine will toward a love that would shape generations to come. Ruth and Naomi sat in silence in their hovel, Ruth's heart unsteady. She had heard nothing from Boaz, and the silence gnawed at her. Every passing moment seemed to stretch impossibly long, filled with the clamor of her own thoughts, anticipation, hope, and a shadow of doubt. Then, a knock at the door broke the silence. A smile curved at the edges of Naomi's mouth.
My child, I think that may be for you.
Ruth's breath caught in her throat as she rose, her feet hesitant but her heart racing. She reached the door and opened it slowly. The creak of the wood was the only sound before the world erupted into joyous commotion. A parade of people stood outside, their shouts of joy and exultation filling the air. Trumpets blared triumphantly, and women stepped forward with arms laden with fragrant oils, flowers, and garments of gleaming light. Before Ruth could process what was happening, they swept into the house like a tide, their hands gentle, yet insistent, as they adorned her with the finery of a bride.
Blessed,
They called her.
chosen, redeemed.
The words swirled around Ruth, along with garlands of wildflowers. She felt the press of hands smoothing her hair and settling a delicate veil over her brow. When the men knelt and presented her with a seat, she lowered herself into it. The seat was lifted high, carried upon their shoulders as they began their triumphant march. Ruth's heart swelled as the cheers rose around her. The procession moved down the road toward the threshing floor, where Boaz waited. Naomi walked behind the parade, her heart brimming with an emotion she had not felt in years. Delight. Tears streamed down Naomi's weathered cheeks as she whispered praises to the Lord. She thought of the bitter name she had once claimed, Mara, and how far the Lord had brought her since those dark days. The sweetness of her true name, Naomi, returned to her in waves. The Lord had never abandoned her. His hand was carrying her all along, through the loyalty of her daughter-in-law, Ruth. Faithful Ruth, redeemed Ruth. The crowd reached the threshing floor. There stood Boaz. His posture was tall and proud, his expression radiant with joy as he caught sight of Ruth. The men set Ruth gently at the start of the aisle. She remained there for a moment, her hands trembling slightly as she took in the scene before her. Her gaze lingered on Boaz, her Redeemer, and she thought of the journey that had led her to this moment. She remembered the tears shed at Mahlon's grave, the nights spent in prayer beneath the vast, unyielding sky. She thought of the aching march from Moab, the weariness of gleaning in the fields. All of it, every sorrow and trial, had been a thread in the tapestry of God's plan. She breathed deeply, steadying herself, and stepped forward. The brokenness of her past melted away with each stride, her path illuminated by the rising sun of redemption. When she reached Boaz, she took his hand. Boaz looked at Ruth, his heart near to bursting. She was radiant, her beauty not merely in her outward adornment, but in the strength and faith that shone through her. She was a testament to the grace of God, a living emblem of redemption.
Ruth, daughter of Moab, but beloved of Israel, today I take you to be my wife. In the sight of the Lord our God, and before the witnesses of this assembly, you are no longer a stranger among us, but grafted into the people of Israel. As the Lord has redeemed me and my house, so I vow to redeem you, to cherish you, and to honor you all the days of my life.
Boaz, I stand here today not because of my worth, but because of the kindness of our God and your steadfast heart. I pledge myself to you as your wife, to love you and serve you with loyalty, as I have loved and served Naomi. May the God of Israel, under whose wings I have sought refuge, bless this union and guide our steps together.
As it is written in the scroll of our forefathers, it is not good for man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him. Ruth, you are my helper, my companion, and the delight of my heart. I will love you as my own soul, honor you as my partner, and protect you as my bride.
Where you go, I will go. Where you dwell, I will dwell. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God.
The people cheered, and their voices a chorus of celebration, their faces alight with the realization that they were witnessing more than a union of two souls. There was a foretaste of something greater, a glimpse of God's ultimate plan of redemption for his people. Boaz and Ruth's love story became a part of the grander narrative of God's faithfulness. Through their union, a lineage was forged that would bring forth kings, and eventually the king. Years later, when their son Obed was born, Naomi cradled him in her arms, her heart overflowing with joy. The women of Bethlehem gathered around, their voices lifting in song.
Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you without a redeemer. This child shall be to you a restorer of life.
Their words were not merely a blessing, but a prophecy. Obed would grow to father Jesse, and Jesse would father David, the shepherd king of Israel. From David's line, under the same Bethlehem skies, a child would be born in a stable, a child who would redeem not only a family or a nation, but the entire world. Through suffering and sorrow, through loyalty and love, God's redemptive plan unfolded. The story of Ruth and Boaz was but a thread in the grand tapestry, yet its beauty shone brightly, pointing to the ultimate kinsman redeemer, Jesus of Nazareth. The descendant of faithful Ruth and righteous Boaz, he would bear the weight of the storm and deliver his people, calling them beloved and restoring what was lost.
Wow, Ruth chapter 4 is one of my favorite full circle moments in the Bible. It proves that God's promises are never empty. If you've been waiting for a breakthrough, this chapter was for you. Here's the scene. Boaz goes straight to the town gate to handle business. Back in those days, the town gate was like City Hall. It's where all the legal and official stuff happened. Boaz is ready to take action to Ruth. I absolutely love this. Can we pause for a minute and talk about what a man Boaz is? He's getting things done for this woman that he's fallen in love with. He doesn't wait for things to just happen. He's a man of action. He's intentional. He's ready to do what it takes to make Ruth his wife. I absolutely love it. And you know, every single Christian girl has a Boaz on her mind when looking for qualities in a future husband. Here's what stands out to me. Boaz didn't have to do any of this. He chose to. He didn't have to love Ruth or protect Naomi's family line, but he did it out of love, compassion, and obedience to God's ways. I'm telling you right now, if you've ever wondered if anyone would choose you, not out of obligation, but out of love, let Ruth chapter 4 be your reminder. Jesus chose you. Jesus is your Boaz. Jesus is your kinsman redeemer. Boaz bought Naomi's land with money and married Ruth. Jesus bought your salvation on the cross with his blood and called you his bride. And this love for you isn't based on obligation. He chose you every single time. Now, here's the part that's going to get you shouting. Boaz and Ruth get married. And then, oh y'all, then they have a son. His name is Obed. Here's why this matters. Obed becomes the grandfather of King David. And if you're familiar with the Bible, you know that Jesus, yes, our Redeemer, comes through the lineage of David. So Ruth, a woman who started as a Moabite widow, becomes part of the family line of Jesus Christ. That's why the birth of Jesus was in our prelude. This moment between Ruth and Boaz made the birth of Christ possible. Do you know what this means? If Ruth's life filled with tragedy gave way to the coming of Christ, then what is your hardship making way for? What does God have in store for you? This is why I love God's redemption story. He takes what looks broken, lost, and hopeless and uses it for something eternal. Ruth's faithfulness didn't just change her story, it changed generations. And here's my takeaway for all of us. Your faithfulness matters. Your story matters. Ruth had no idea she was part of something bigger than herself. She was just trying to survive. But God took her ordinary acts of faithfulness and built something extraordinary out of them. I'll be honest with you. There have been seasons in my life where I've asked, God, is any of this even making a difference? I feel like that with much of my work with inmates in prisons. It's hard, it's emotional, it's exhausting. But Ruth's story reminds me that faithfulness in the small things is never wasted. God's working in the background, weaving it all together. So here's the challenge I'm giving you today. Don't underestimate your ordinary faithfulness, your acts of love, your hard work, your decision to stay when you could walk away, because God sees it. And He's using it for something bigger than you could ever imagine. You might feel like Ruth right now, doing what you've got to do with no idea how it'll turn out. But just know that God's got a Boaz moment coming for you. And I'm telling you, it's coming. This wraps up our series on Ruth. But y'all, this isn't the end. It's just the beginning. God's still writing your story. And I'm cheering you on every step of the way. If this message spoke to you, share it with someone in their waiting season. Sometimes all it takes is one reminder that redemption is coming. You could be the only Bible someone ever reads. Thanks for joining me on this series. And remember, God's plans for you are good, even when you can't see them. If you want more epic stories like these, download the Pray.com app today.